Hello and welcome to Horror 101 Second Semester. I'm Paul,
And I'm Dave.
and this week we are discussing Late Night with the Devil. So, this originally released, depending where you are, sometime either in 2023 or 2024. The kind of wide release was in March of 2024. I think that's when it hit Shudder, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's a like horror streaming service. They've
Yeah, one of the marvelous sort of things that we have nowadays.
Yeah, it's actually Shudder. Um, I know there's a lot of people that complain about how many streaming services there are. The Shudder one, if you're a horror fan, is genuinely worth the like $7 a month.
Yeah, it's one of the interesting things that with the bigger three that are kind of sitting around, case of either having their own specific niche and or the ridiculous juggling that comes along with certain films coming, going, or going in other sorts of placings. But again, if you have that particular sort of niche and you don't lose any of your specific films going throughout the year, it's definitely a nice change.
Well, and they put out like a lot of originals and like TV series and stuff, so they're very good about like reinvesting back into the service.
That's definitely true.
Yes. So, Late Night with the Devil. It actually was shot in Australia, which is a fun fact. Anyway, okay. So this is a sort of found footage, sort of documentary style movie. I don't really know
Yeah,
what to call it.
well, pretty much just the simplest sort of thing is pretty much what it says on the box. Whether or not it's the case of either watching a rerun or, like you said, more found footage sort of style with those sort of things, but essentially just talk show with seeing through commercial advertisements sort of to see more reactions of what's happening on the show.
Yeah, so the film is basically sold as a late night talk show special that aired Halloween night of 1977, where the host is desperate to increase his ratings, and he brings on this allegedly possessed girl, and, well, things kind of go from there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the plot. So the prologue is framed as a documentary investigating an unexplained event that occurred on the Halloween night of 1977. During the live broadcast of the sixth season episode of the successful variety late night show Night Owls with Jack Delroy, which competes for ratings with the Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, his little intro to the first episode has one of my favorite jokes where Jack Delroy comes out and he's like, I want to thank everybody for making this possible, and everybody being here and everybody who works behind the scenes. And I'm sure my parents are sitting at home in Idaho with big smiles on their faces while they watch The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
I don't know why, I just love that joke. Through his celebrity connections, Night Owl's host Jack Delroy, who is based in New York City, makes regular visits to The Grove, an elite California camp for wealthy and powerful men. After his wife Madeline dies of cancer, Night Owls halts its production. Jack ultimately returns, and in order to boost the show's low ratings, does a special occult-themed episode on Halloween. Special guests for the episode include self-proclaimed psychic and medium Christou, skeptic and former magician Carmichael Haig, and parapsychologist author June Ross Mitchell, and June's subject, 13-year-old Lily Dabo, who is purportedly possessed by a demonic spirit. During the broadcast, Christo experiences a premonition about someone named Minnie, which Jack reveals later is his private nickname for Madeline. Christo becomes sick and projectile vomits a black liquid and is rushed to the hospital. In the next segment, June introduces Lily, the sole survivor of a mass suicide by a satanic church, and its leader, Xandor Dabu, that worshipped Abraxas. Jack convinces her to conjure the demon inside her, whom Lily dubs Mr. Wriggles. During a commercial break, the crew informs Jack that Christo has died from hemorrhaging in the ambulance. During June's conjuring, Lily becomes possessed and levitates her chair. The demon notes having previously met Jack under the tall trees, revealing that Jack and June are romantically involved and suggesting that Jack wanted his wife out of the way. Lily's possession then subsides and the show continues. Carmichael challenges June by subjecting Jack's sidekick, Gus McConnell, to a hypnotism demonstration, which causes nearly everyone in the studio to see worms pouring out of him. When the production team rewinds the footage, it proves that the demonstration was merely a joint hallucination experienced by everyone in the studio. However, the supernatural phenomenon that occurred during Julie's conjuring is unaltered in the recorded playback. Jack is horrified when he notices Madeline's ghost standing behind him in the footage. But Carmichael accuses him of orchestrating the events. Lily becomes possessed again. Her head splits open and begins to glow like lava. She brutally kills Gus, June, and Carmichael, and Jack is suddenly transported to a nightmarish version of the show. He relives moments of the show's past before it is revealed that he indeed had a connection to the demon possessing Lily. He encountered it during a ceremony at the Grove, where he made a pact with the devil by sacrificing the soul of his wife in exchange for fame and the TV success of Night Owls. Thus, he was indirectly responsible for Madeline's cancer. Madeline's ghost begs Jack to put her out of her misery as the cancer is causing pain. Using the ritual dagger from Lily's former satanic cult, he then stabs her to death, and the scene suddenly shifts to the now empty studio. A horrified Jack realizes that he has stabbed Lily on live television. He stands over the bodies of his dead guests as police sirens approach in the distance. So, what did you think of this, Dave?
On the whole, I'm definitely not a stranger for seeing the occultist, crazy sort of stuff from there. Nothing title-wise specifically comes to mind, but I've had experience with movies and other sorts of stuff doing it in the past, going with the typical sort of ideas that they used for it. And it's always nice seeing the sort of angle of having a particular person within the sort of movie disclaiming any of the particular sort of stuff and showing those sorts of things, the tricks and other sorts of things, proving it is false, but then also the case of very much real and very much facing the consequences of it. And just especially how extreme it sort of decided to go with it on the couple aspects of it was definitely interesting to see. But also the case of once everything hits the fan and he gets sent into his glory days near the end, just all the stuff going through, just on one hand understandable, but just the case messing with things that should not be messed with.
Yes. I really like the idea of this to make it kind of this like lost episode of a television show. I love that concept. I would happily watch more. Especially, I think it works best for horror movies. But if other horror directors want to do something like this, will be first in line to buy a ticket. I love the concept. I also love that a lot of the effects in this are practical. Now, obviously, there's a few that are done digitally, but a lot of the effects are practical, and I love that. Like when...
I think that's another particular sort of idea with this concept, and especially with how they worked with it. They kept it grounded enough that there was still the amazing sort of aspects that they could do with it with practical effects, as well as the little bits of CG that they had to manage with. But even then, it would be one of those cases that, depending on your concept or when you sort of watch this movie, it would definitely kind of give you the freak out seeing the particular stuff it goes with.
Yeah, like there's this scene where Jack's like sidekick Gus is like, he thinks he has worms in him and he's like ripping his stomach open and they're pouring out. and like that's a
Mhm.
really cool practical effect. Where it's like
Mhm.
you could have done that with CGI, but it wouldn't have the impact.
Definitely true.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's such a fun concept. Um, yeah, I really like this movie, and I hope that we get more stuff like it. I don't want a sequel to this because I feel like that would be a bad idea, but something in this vein I would totally be in for.
Like, I think at the very most, if there was either a specific callback to the concept of this idea or homaging it to either movie using this concept when someone either heard of the idea themselves or found this particular footage themselves to use it for their own idea, that would be good. But yeah, especially with how the movie kind of ended, see, putting a sequel to it would definitely be tricky and maybe going a bit too far.
Yeah, I don't know how you would do a sequel because we basically, at the end of the movie, Lily's head splits open. We see this like weird, like glowy stuff coming out of it, and it basically tells us that Jack is probably going to jail for murder, and
Yeah, yeah.
that demons and the devil are real, and yeah, yeah. I don't know how you sequelize this, but yeah, it's a fun movie. I think it's one of those horror movies that like it's not super scary. I think it sets up its scares well, but because it takes its time before like anything weird starts to happen, really. Like there's a couple of little things like the lights will do something weird, or there'll be like little things like that, but it takes its time to kind of build its uh, um, not suspense, but to build its like atmosphere and stuff.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I think another particular thing with this film is I'm not particularly sure about you, but I've known of particular peoples with fears that have real concerns of the fear of technology, things not supposedly working like right if under uh, demon possession or other sorts of stuff like that. And just every so through the film, there's always those little glitches that, depending on how you see it, is either watching the film back itself and or with watching through the film or callbacks from the hypnotist effects as well as the possession sort of stuff, the glitchiness of sort of things. And I know that's a fairly big fear for some particular people.
So apparently, and I've never tested this, but apparently, if you go back to when those glitches happen and you pause it at the right moment, you can see like Madeline's face and stuff in it.
Okay, using more of an effect for that. One of those, you blink and you miss it.
Yeah, very much so. Like it's one or two frames and then it's gone. And I think that's
Mhm.
it's super effective because you're right. Like if this was like a real tape from 1977 that had just been rediscovered, of course there's going to be like issues with the tape and stuff because it's nearly 50 years old or more than well yeah almost 50 years old, so of course there's going to be glitches and stuff in it, but having that little like subtle like something's fucking up here is yeah,
Mhm.
I think it's really cool. I really like this movie. I'm sure I've said that a bunch, but yeah, I adore this.
No, I can definitely see that. And as it stands, there's nothing that I can really say that I think would be bad with any of the particular stuff it has. But it's one of the marvelous take it or leave it sort of things. It's a suggestion for any sort of person that want to watch a horror movie but doesn't want to go to one of the extreme ends.
No, this is much more like a psychological kind of thing. Like there's not a ton of gore, there's a little bit. uh Mainly just the scene with Gus where he like rips his guts open and stuff, but that's all. It doesn't take very long, and it's it ends up being just like a trick. Yeah. So, do you have anything else about this film, Dave?
No, I think on whole, it's interesting enough sort of concept that along with the typical show and going with the demon possession sort of idea, it's also good to see what happens between the commercial break, the different sort of ideas being tossed around of dear God, the co-star is like, oh God, this shit is crazy. Why the hell am I still here? With the producer and whatnot behind the scenes talking to the lead star of it being like, everything's going good. We're getting decent enough ranges with the couple of spikes. Things are supposedly looking good, but not quite seeing the more higher consequences until shit really hits the fan.
Yeah, so when the show goes for its like commercial breaks, we see these little like behind the scenes sequences that are shot in black and white. And I agree. I think that's really important, putting in those little like, because we have Gus come a couple of times going like, "What the fuck are we doing? Like, we shouldn't be messing with this." Yeah, I think I think you're right. I think that's really important, and that's really effective in the storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, so next week will be the final week of Horror 101, its second semester, and we're gonna go a slightly different route.
Mm.
So, how familiar are you with the Halloween films, Dave?
I know of them. I think there's the case of you showing me at least the first one and possibly some of the other particular numbered ones, but very much understanding of the horror icon. I believe I have the name right of Michael Myers. Or eh.
Yeah, Michael Myers.
Mhm.
So, are you familiar with a little movie called Halloween 3 Season of the Witch?
Possibly so, but I don't think it's one of the ones that I've had the supposed joy of watching.
Okay, so Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, especially at the time, was, pardon the expression, but the redheaded stepchild of the franchise.
One of
Of
those cases.
So it's the only Halloween movie to not feature Michael Myers.
Hmm. What?
It's also one of my favorite movies in the franchise. It's had a critical reevaluation over the last couple of years, I would say. Maybe the last 5 to 10 years. I think it's really cool and has a really cool concept, and I can't wait to see what you think of it. I'm going to give you a little taste of kind of what we're in store for.
Radios, radios.
So, okay. So the basic premise is that as Halloween approaches, these commercials start playing on TV, telling kids that they should buy these special masks. Basically, the masks, when they watch this, and it also advertises this television special that all the kids are excited to tune into on Halloween night. Somehow, let's just say there's going to be magic involved, and there's going to be some really cool special effects with the masks, because the masks are going to turn the children into the thing that they're wearing like into that thing, kind of.
Okay.
It's got some great special effects for the time. Again, it's 1982. Some great practical effects, and I think it's a fun storyline. And I wish they had done more movies like this in the Halloween franchise because it's a lot of fun.
Interesting.
It is quite fun. All right, so until then, I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.